Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Sunday, the 27th of June, 2021. It's the last Sunday of June. We've got weather warnings of heat waves coming in next month. We have scorching weather just like every other week, but hotter. You're now live with the prodigious, prominent Professor Johnson at Proclamation News and Gatherings. What have we had over the last few days? I've been reading, as a critical thinker, I've been sending emails to the right people. One of them being Will Quice and Priti Patel. They are honourable people, aren't they? Honourable gentlemen and a lady. I'll say ladette. Yes, but let me just get into my email. I can read that email, what I sent to both Will Quice and Priti Patel. This is what I do day in, day out. I read the journalism, see what's going on. Anything that comes upon the horizon that, cause a bit of a provocation for all of us. Not just me, you as well. That's why I'm part of the union. I'm going to stick to my plan. Let's see what Will Quice said. Be in my... think this is it. Nope. That's a different email, right? That email I cannot find. But I've got the letter saved on my phone, actually. In fact, that Arslan Hamid. Arslan Hamid is a criminal. He caused 3 offences. The last one was in Walthamstow. So we're going to have a little chat about that now. I'm just going to find the... here we go. So I sent to Will Quice. I'm not happy with how the criminal law are acting on Arslan Mohammed's behalf as he stabbed 3 victims now. To the thoughtful process of stabbing someone, you're going to take someone, you possibly take someone's life. He's left one person in critical condition in hospital. The last person he stabbed was in Walthamstow, in the neck. As you know, you got your windpipe. You got many arteries that you could, take someone's life with. Sticking a blade in. It's absolutely shocking, absorbing information. Then to read the tabloid that he could only get Section 20 GBH, which is a maximum of 5 years imprisonment. I've looked into it yesterday after I read it. I thought that is barbaric. Well, it's not barbaric because in a barbaric terms, it'd have got easily a life sentence for 3 offences. But Will Quice did happily email me back to my response, which is good. That's phenomenal, as an MP should. Will Quice sent me a directive from Parliament. Sentencing. Thank you for contacting me about sentencing. It is right that most serious offenders, including those who have committed violent and sexual offences, should spend more time in prison to match the severity of their crimes. The Prime Minister has been clear that the government he leads will strengthen public confidence in the criminal justice. This is addressed to me because I sent an email. I will support legislation that's designed to achieve this. Legislation was introduced to Parliament to abolish the automatic halfway release for serious offenders who receive standard a fixed term sentence of 7 years or more. This includes those found guilty of rape, manslaughter and grievous bodily harm with intent. Instead, a new conditions on release continuing. This action will mean around 2,000 serious offenders will spend longer in custody. The police, crime centre and courts will enshrine this change in primary legislation. I welcome the fact that the government wants to go further as part of the determination to protect the public from serious offenders. The government published a sentencing white paper. The white paper represents the largest reforms to sentencing for almost 20 years. Ministers have now outlined plans to legislate through the police, crime, sentencing and court bill. This will extend the approach mentioned above by ending halfway release of offenders. In grievously bodily harm with intent, the change will mean that they will instead have to spend 2/3 of their time behind bars. Other measures in the bill include plans to make whole life orders the starting point for child killers and allowing judges to hand out the maximum punishment to 18 to 20 years old in exceptional life. In addition, ministers will introduce new powers to stop the automatic early release of offenders who pose a terrorist threat or are a danger to the public. We'll also welcome that the bill will change the way judges determine the minimum term of tariff, which has to be served before they can be considered for release. I know that many people feel that young people on the border of adulthood do not receive the sentence they deserve. Simply as a consequence of their age, I agree action is needed here to tackle over 18 who committed murder as a child to the maximum term reviewed. In addition, the bill will introduce a sliding scale so there are different starting points that take into consideration. So it's important that I jump on board and outline the fragments where people go wrong, isn't it? You're going to hear the rest of the email from Will to me. Age of the child and the seriousness of murder. This means that the older of the child, the more serious the murder, the higher the starting point. This reflects that children develop and mature at a much faster rate, and that children are very different at age 17 compared to age 10. This also means there will be a less age gap between the starting points for older children and younger adults. The government has outlined plans in the police, crime sentencing and courts bill to change the threshold for passing a sentence below the minimum term for repeat offenders, including key serious offences such as a third domestic burglary and a repeat offence, including possession of a knife, to ensure the courts depart from the minimum sentence only in exceptional circumstances and to create greater consistency in the statutory provisions on minimum sentences. And Paul said, thank you for contacting me. But my point there, what I was trying to get at, so this Arslan Mohammed stabbed this young lad in Walthamstow. I think the lad was 18. Arslan Ahmed is age 20. The one that's doing the offender. So he's age 20. He's done 3 crimes. So he's got a prison sentence on the other crimes, or you've got a curfew. I'm not sure what his punishment got on his last 2 offences, but this is 3 offences now where he's almost took 3 people's life and he's getting away with it because he's going in, if he does get a short term in jail, he's got a 6-year sentence, perhaps a minimum term for section 20 GBH is 5 years. That's the maximum penalty. So he'll probably do half of that. If he gets 6 years, he get 3 years in prison. He'll come out still young-minded, young in the head, think, well, it's only 3 years in prison. I can go and do it again. We'll come out and we'll offend. Is he going to learn? He needs half a life sentence. Half a life sentence. 22 years is a full life sentence. He needs half of that, doesn't he? He needs 11 till he matures. And when he comes out, he's going to come out a better person because 20 years, he's going to be about 40 time he comes out. He will not be able to reoffend because he'll be at that age where he thinks, I need to sort my life out now. At that young age, only getting 6 years, but only doing 3 years prison. Come out at 23, still young mind, still young blood, thinking he can get away with almost murder. You got to think of these. I know you're thinking, some of you listeners might be thinking, why get yourself involved in that sort of circle, what I'm doing? But imagine your grandkids or your brother or sister walking down the street and you bump into someone like Arslan, Ahmed, stabs you in the neck for no reason, perhaps. We don't know any reason why he's stabbing these people. There might be a slight provocation caused on his behalf to cause conflict, but I very much doubt it. It's three occasions where he's felt the need to use a knife and kill. Psychomotor state, isn't it? It's a metropolitan lunatic asylum. That's all that kid's fit for, and he needs to get imprisonment for a long time, then stuck in one of them lunatic asylums, mental hospice, till he's fit, capable, and ready to go out and think, I'll start my own family. I don't want to be using knives anymore. I want to become a real gentleman and get a decent job. You got to know what you're worth, you know. You need to know your self-worth in life. I'm going to read a little bit on about Arslan now before we get onto the road incidents and more criminology throughout the week, more stabbings and whatever else. A man convinced of Walthamstow knife attack. There's been a shooting within the police as well. Man convinced of Walthamstow knife attack. So I'm going to read a little bit about what we was talking about yesterday. Oh, I'm not. Please. No, I'm not. It's not coming up. We're going to go just give a shout out for my sponsors for the show. I mean, people suffering with anxiety, depression, they want a better aspiration in life, turn a new corner, turn a new leaf. They want to make change. Some good products to buy. Relax-uk.com. Relax UK Limited, health, travel and wellness products since 1997. UK relaxation shops send various ranges of products from relaxation, travel, well-being, biofeedback, sleeping and natural products. PSS Alarms as well, helping our show, and we help them in return. Very ethical and pragmatic works carried out. All areas covered, including central station monitoring provided. All work done according to insurance requirements. This is a friend of mine's company. He's carried out works in Harry Kane's stepmother's house in Hertfordshire, Potter's Bar. He carries out etiquette works in Essex, such as Casabar restaurant and many more big businesses. Please bear in mind, Casabar is under a new name. It turned into Caribbean, and another new owners are taking over the hotel restaurant. Installation and maintenance of intruder alarms, fire alarms, CCTV, all work guaranteed and certified to SSAIB standards, 24-hour call-out service. He lives in Potter's Bar. Set up for new business, secure your business. Mention Professor Johnson for an extra discount. Secure your home, secure your business. Get a pen and paper ready to take down a number shortly, or get ready to take the number down in your phone, just in case you need CCTV in the forthcoming month. Maybe you think about starting a new business or securing your household. Your safety and priority within your business are paramount. So think safety, think first, secure your equity. It's always important to have CCTV up your house, because about a month ago, that guy, farmer, had a shotgun in his house for work related reasons. But I think, where was it? Brentwood, was it? Billericay or something like that? Brentwood or Billericay, I can't remember now. It's a few months ago. Two lads, one about 21 and the other one about 23, went into his house, knew he had the shotgun, took the shotgun and shot him, left him for dead. So, you know, you don't know what's around the corner. Burglars might come in your sleep, stick something in you, but you've had no CCTV. Now, if you had CCTV and intruder alarms, your alarm will go off, wake you up. It's important that you have these implications to your household for your safety. Anyway, call this number. Ask for Tariq Khan. Mention Professor Johnson for extra discount. The mobile number is 07908 07908 07908 07908 216 142. 216 142. 216 142. 07908 216 142. Ask Terry Khan. Right, before we go off into the road incidents today, we've got so much to get through. We've got politics, more criminology. It's going to be an absolute prodigious show. And I'm so thankful for everyone here joining in today. Thank you so much. Car incidents today inside the UK. Do not enter the vehicle under sleep deprivation or alcoholism or with any alcoholism or narcotics in your system. You're putting not only your own life at risk, but innocent people's lives at risk. Mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and children on board. Use your initiative. Do not enter a vehicle. Drive to the pub. You need to leave your keys with someone because it gives you that incentive after you've drunk. You might get in a car, you're not thinking straight. You've had an argument with someone in the pub, you want to get out of there, you want to quickly jump in your car and drive off. That's what's going to happen. Don't take your car. Try not to take your car out with you. But if you do, leave your keys with someone so you know you're not going to drive a car. Maybe with a bartender. Think safety, think first. Very, very important. Checking your engine oil and water coolant tank, making sure they're topped up to the maximum level. Make sure your MOT is updated. Making sure you've got plenty of sufficient fuel on board to get to your destination, because you might come in a way of an incident, road works, congestion, road closure, lanes closed, weather incidents. You don't know. You don't know what's lies ahead on the roads. Not just in the UK, all over the world, wherever you are listening from. You've got to take this, you've got to tradition this into your brain every day. If I ain't got enough fuel on board, I could be late for work. You could be late for a meeting. You could be late to go and collect some money. You don't check your destination. There's an incident on the road, you're stuck in the traffic, you're not going to make it. You can't then call the responder and say, oh, look, I'm stuck in traffic, I might be an hour. The road could be closed all night and you can't get there. And then you lose out on a paycheck, perhaps. Or your wife's giving birth, you need to get her to the hospital. Think ahead. Check for speed cameras. Should be doing the speed limit anyway. Check for further police safety signs. Check your centre and wing mirror before acting into a safe, sufficient directional choice. Make sure cars or motorcyclists are not overtaken. When you get to a Tucumán cross or any zebra crossing, make sure pedestrian, if he's crossed the road, make sure he's crossed the road. Not when he's just gone past the car, because he might then, imagine if he's dropped his wallet, then he steps back onto your side of the road and you run him over. It's always important, as you know, in your theory, you've got to make sure the pedestrians are fully across the road. The Tucumán cross, a cyclist and people on foot. Matt Hancock, on the media about Matt Hancock, video leak will be investigated. Brandon Lewis. The Department of Health is to look into how footage from Matt Hancock's office was leaked. Northern Line Secretary Brandon Lewis has said the video, which showed Mr. Hancock breaching COVID rules by kissing a colleague, was passed to the Sun and ultimately led to resignation. Speaking to BBC, Mr. Lewis said, we have to understand how that happened and how we deal with that. Mr. Matt Hancock is going to be extremely missed. I like Matt Hancock, I must admit. What he's done is a bit out of breach because, they are the MPs putting down the law and they're breaking it himself, so he's got to resign. Rightly so. The Sun says the images came from a concerned Whitehall whistleblower. The paper's political editor, Harry Cole, told Radio 4's PM's programme the alleged whistleblower thought they deserved a wider audience. The paper says the photos and video of Mr. Hancock and Gina Angelo, who are both married with 3 children each, were taken inside the Department of Health and Social Care on May the 6th. But there are questions over how the footage was captured from within the government department. In his resignation letter released on Saturday, Mr. Hancock apologised for breaking the guidance and to his family for putting him through this. He asked about the leak on BBC's Andrew Marr programme. Mr. Lewis said the Department of Health will be investigating, quite rightly, to understand how this was able to happen. We have got to be concerned about the fact that someone was able to secure a recording from inside the government building, he added, replying to a question about the possibility of a general review into security cameras across the government buildings. Mr. Lewis said he was sure there was something that the team will be looking at. I take the view that everything you are saying or putting in writing will be reported somewhere. Completely unacceptable. Speaking on the same programme, Jeremy Hunt, Mr. Hancock's predecessor as Health Secretary and now Chairman of the Health and Social Care Select Committee, said there absolutely needed to be a review of security across Whitehall. It is completely unacceptable from a security point of view that ministers are being filmed from inside their own offices without their knowledge. And so there will be issues that our intelligence agencies will want to look very, very carefully. But there's also another issue, which is that ministers do need to have the ability to have frank, private conversations with their senior officials to debate things so they can understand issues. And now that those conversations all remain private. Asked if the leak was on a breach of official Secrets Act, whether the police should be involved, Mr. Hunt said possibly, but added that whistleblowers should be protected. The Metropolitan Police said it was aware of distribution of images alleged to have been obtained within official government premises. I feel sorry for Matt Hancock, if I'm totally honest. Former Cabinet Ministers Alan Johnson and Maurice Stewart both said there had never been cameras in the offices during their time in the government. Speaking to Sky News, Trevor Phillips on Sunday, former Labour Cabinet Minister Mr. Johnson said, I could never understand why there was a camera in the Secretary of the State's office. There's never a camera in my office when I was a Health Secretary or any of the other 5 cabinet positions. Mr. Stewart, who was the Tories International Development Secretary from May to July 2019, said in a tweet, I definitely did not know that there were cameras in any of my ministerial offices. In fact, I was told when I asked if there were any cameras that there were not cameras in my office in the FID. He added, if it was their departmental camera, perhaps focused on the door for security reasons, then it would have been seen by security officers. Someone else installing it would have some changes: security passes, doors, access to ministerial office, etc. I'm going to go back to just a few instances. Then we're going to get on to what's going on in Essex at the moment. Southend-on-Sea, slow traffic on the A127, reported on 27th of June. Arterial Road, London bound, and the Fairway, progress on the road. In Colchester, A133, slow traffic in construction area at St Andrews Avenue at A1232, which is road. In the construction area, slow for contraflow in both directions. 20 past 11 a.m. reported today. Go up to Great Yarmouth. Just in case it's people from Great Yarmouth, it's people coming in from all over the world, so I appreciate everyone stopping by. On the A149, slow traffic on Lawn Avenue at Ormond Road in the construction area, slow for temporary traffic lights. At 10 past 10, first reported a.m. reported today. We're going up near towards Watford area. A406, heavy traffic, congestion to heavy traffic on A406 North Circle westbound before Hanger Lane. The gyratory system congestion to Park Royal Interchange was reported at 11 a.m. Thank you, ladies and gents, so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We're going to short Ahmed breaking now. So we can get through this Essex Live. This is more criminology, absolute provocation. London Underground crime. Harlow man carried out shocking and senseless hammer attack on tube because he was stressed. The attack left multiple people injured and terrified passengers. An Essex man who carried a spontaneous hammer attack on 3 London Underground passengers has been jailed. 19-year-old Jamel Walker of Elizabeth Way, Harlow, Essex, boarded a tube train at Walthamstow tube train station on Thursday, October 29th. He was seen circling a central hand pole on a train before reaching into his bag and pulling out a hammer. Then, without warning, he launched a vicious and sustained attack on 2 men sitting on the train. Walker repeatedly hit one of the men in the head with a hammer, whilst trying to attack the other simultaneously. Terrified passengers began running away from Walker, who also had a screwdriver in his hand. When the tube train pulled into the Seven Sisters station, Walker got off and began to attack another man standing on the platform. Before the train could leave, he ran back on it and chased his first 2 victims once more. The 90-year-old left victims at the station along with weapons he had on him in person before leaving the Seven Sisters by foot. His first victims suffered lacerations of a fractured skull, spending 10 days in hospital, and the third victim was also received treatment in hospital for a head wound. Walker's second victim suffered minor injuries, which did not require hospital treatment. Met police officers tracked Walker's identity using forensic information from a discarded apple juice carton at the platform, and subsequently arrested Walker at his home a week later. During a police interview, Walker was unable to explain why he carried out the brutal and spontaneous attack. The only reason he gave was that he was stressed that day. A bad day, she'd go on a train and hit someone with a hammer. On a bad day, most days, I get letters for the door saying you owe £4,000 here, you owe £5,000 here. I've also been hit in the head with a hammer. The trauma it can leave you. That guy has been hit with a hammer. And the 2 guys have been hit with a hammer. The trauma like that can leave them for the rest of their life. A 19-year-old kid, who would have thought, you get on a train, you're in your 40s, 30s, you know, you at that time of your life, you just want to settle down and, you know, be there for your own children. And you get hit in the head by an incompetent child that's been pointed in the wrong direction of life. So you're there to suffer for the rest of your life. You're there to suffer for the rest of your life for this incompetent kid. How unlucky is that? At Southwark Crown Court on May the 6th this year, Walker pleaded guilty to grievous bodily harm with intent, grievous bodily harm without intent, attempt to grievous bodily harm with intent, and possession of an offensive weapon. At that same court on Tuesday, June the 22nd, Walker was jailed for 12 years with an extended licence period of 5 years. Detective Inspector Gary Pinner said, "This was one of the most shocking and senseless acts of violence I've come across in my entire career, and it was inflicted on 3 innocent men without any provocation." Detective Inspector Gary Pinner. Maybe he should have been at no one got caught for my incident. Walker is clearly an incredible dangerous individual, and it is only through luck that his victims weren't more seriously injured. While this was a truly horrifying experience for them, I'd like to reassure the public that incidents like this, thankfully extremely rare on the railway network. We're also lucky to police a CCTV-rich environment which captured the incident entirely entirety and improved invaluable in helping to bring Walker to justice. I am relieved to know he'll now be spending the foreseeable future behind bars. That's what you got to remember, guys. When you're thinking you're not getting the justice you deserve, the guys that left me for them 2002 are still walking. They got away scot-free. No one found out who done it. It's 15 people supposedly. No one found out who done it. I'm just going to read you this one. it's just so much criminology inside the UK. It is unrealistic. Bermondsey stabbing, man killed at illegal rave. It's going to be in it. It's going to be a fatal attack at night time. There's not going to be anyone hiding. Even though you're at a rave, it's so busy, you probably won't even notice someone laying on the floor in a pool of blood till hours later, till the blood's fell out of the body. A man has been stabbed to death at an illegal rave near Millwall FC's ground. Police found a victim at an unlicensed music event in that industrial unit in Stockholm Road on South Bermondsey, southeast London, at 10 to 12. He was at midnight. He was treated by officers and paramedics, but was pronounced dead at the scene. A 16-year-old boy was found at the scene with head injuries, has been arrested in connection with the death. The teenager was taken to a hospital with a condition that is not believed to be life-threatening. A Met police spokesman said detectives were unable to release any details on the victim's age. Inquiries are ongoing to establish his identity and contact his family, the force has said. So have a short break. Thank you. We've got 2 more segments to go through. A short break and a couple of minutes. Thank you everyone for joining in. We've got Swabik. Listen to a little bit of Swabik for 5-10 minutes. See what Swabik's got to say today. Oh, name is Sajid Javid.
Played in my introduction today.
Because it's his duty. It's his duty not to fall on the sword. He's not in a position where he's supposed to fall on the sword. It's his duty to make sure the sword doesn't fall underneath him. Otherwise, as far as a Prime Minister is concerned, his position is useless because he knows the Cabinet are full of errors. Your whole entire life, they're human beings that are in charge of the government. They're not people that can't have error in their life and break rules because they're human. So the Prime Minister knows that Matt Hancock will eventually take the sword out and jump on it. So why should he just go and put a hat on that he can't wear? These politicians know the game, and it's a game. My problem in the game is that I did not ask to come into all of this secret service and all these cameras hidden in his office and having affairs and all that. You know, I don't care about your personal problem. We pay tax that you stand in front of us and protect us. Your duty is to us as citizens to say, right, left is good, right is bad. Okay, so we all go right, fine, and we're supposed to be safe. Hold on a minute, you're going left. So that means right. Is it right? Because if right was right, you'd be going left as the Health Secretary. Yeah. So you can't be going left and the whole country's going right. Yeah. That is hypocritical and that is inhuman. We are not talking about going into a shop and stealing a sweetie and slap on the wrist, go home, naughty boy. You've affected millions of lives. People in quarantine that have scars of not seeing their loved ones for 10 days while you're out there floating your boat. No, I don't accept his apology. He can keep that. I'm still going to be on the ride where it says you are answerable to what you've done to my life. And if I meet you, Matt, I'm going to ask you that question.
And thank you so much for calling again. An absolute pleasure to speak to you. And I, again, applaud you as a nurse for the service you've put in during this period, keeping the rest of us safe. That's Anne in Watford, who lost her daughter during lockdowns and had to follow all the rules and feels incredibly let down by what the Health Secretary has been revealed to have done. Let's go to Joe on the line from Putney. Welcome, Joe.
Yes, good afternoon, Majid. Anne's incredibly powerful call. You know, I can only echo everything that she said, but, you know, he should not have had time to fall on his sword. And whether the Prime Minister has a duty to any of this cabinet around him, his first duty should be to us. Yeah. And those decisions that Matt Hancock was parroting, and by the way, one of his other colleagues, whose name escapes me, was just on the radio a minute ago, if you listen back on LBC, to say, oh, you know, somebody in the calibre of Matt Hancock, he'll be back in the cabinet. I mean, how dare they? What are they looking for? Civil unrest?
I don't
God
understand.
forbid, Majid.
And Joe, do you have any idea not only why the PM refused to dismiss his health secretary after all this was revealed, and it was the latest in a long line of things that were revealed, but also why is Keir Starmer so quiet?
I really don't understand any of it. And I mean, this is all in the light of, under the radar, the PM was saying, oh, he's, becoming useless. So if he's useless, then you sack him. Because we don't need a useless health secretary right now.
There's something very sinister going on, Joe, because yesterday, before the health secretary resigned, if one attempted to perform a search on Twitter for Matt Hancock, no results showed. His entire story was wiped from Twitter before he resigned, as if they didn't want us to see it for some reason.
Well, I don't know what he had to say, but could anybody believe a word of it anyway? I mean, what is really going on? We don't really know. But, I mean, the silence is deafening at a time like this. And Anne is just one of God knows how many people, thousands of people that haven't had the chance to say goodbye to a loved one because of these rules that were so rigidly put in place and barked into our ears every 2 seconds, that the person that devised them all decided it didn't really matter. So, if this is so dangerous and if it is so deadly and we have to follow these rules so closely, for our very lives, why aren't any of them doing it?
Indeed. All right, Joe. Thank you for calling in from Putney. A pleasure to speak to you. The time here on LBC. Don't go away, folks. There's full switchboard. Lots of you trying to get through to us on this. We'll come straight back to you. But for now, at 1:30 on LBC, it's time for the news headlines with Tim Humphrey.
The newly appointed Health Secretary says he recognises the huge responsibility facing him as he takes over from Matt Hancock. Sajid Javid started in the role after Mr Hancock resigned when images were published showing him embracing a government advisor breaking coronavirus.
Good pause there, guys. We'll come back to LBC shortly. We'll talk about Sajid Javid. I haven't heard about much from him. Sajid Javid, who is the new Health Secretary? Sajid Javid has been appointed Health Secretary following the resignation of Matt Hancock, who stepped down for breaking social distancing guidelines. Mr. Javid previously served as Home Secretary under former Prime Minister Theresa May and in 2019 was promoted to Chancellor by Boris Johnson. However, he only lasted in that role for 6 months, resigning in February 2020 following tensions with Prime Minister, then advisor Dominic Cummings. Mr. Javid was told he would have to sack his own advisors, but he rejected the order, saying it was something no self-respecting minister could accept. The MP for Bromsgrove since 2010 was born in Rochdale, one of 5 sons of parents who had moved to the UK from Pakistan. Mr. Javid, a 50-year-old father of 4, told the Evening Standard in 2012, "My dad was from a tiny village in Pakistan and came here when he was 17 to look for work. He settled in Rochdale and became a cotton mill worker at Courtaulds, but he was quite ambitious and saw the bus drivers were better paid. His nickname was Mr. Night and Day because he used to work every hour God sent him his way." Mr. Javid's father's job was the same as the father of another high-profile politician, London Mayor Sadiq Khan, and he congratulated the Labour politician from one son of the Pakistani bus driver to another, and his City Hall victory in 2016. Mr. Javid spent his school years in Bristol after his parents took over a ladies' wear shop, with the family living in a 2-bed flat above it. He told Daily Mail in 2014 that the school was tough and I was naughty, more interested in watching Grange Hill than homework. But he said things changed when his dad reacted to the Riot Act. He said, "This was what I went through. Don't let me down. I felt really bad. My academic work rocketed." He said that his school did not want to pay for him to do maths O-level. His dad ended up paying for it instead, he said. He'd also developed an interest in financial markets sparked by the Thatcher's government privatisations at the age of 14. He went to see his father's bank manager and arranged to borrow £500 to invest in shares, becoming a regular reader of the Financial Times. His goal became to work in the city, so he passed out maths O-level and rejected his school, suggesting he become a TV repairman. Headed off to the sixth form college at then Exeter University to study economics and politics. Given a clear hint of his future career direction, he also met his future wife, Laura, while doing a summer job at Commercial Union. They sat opposite each other and shared a stapler, he told the Daily Mail. Their 4 children are privately educated. We do what's best for them, Mr. Javid, who has described himself as a non-practicing Muslim, told the newspaper. After university, he set his sights on a job in the city. As he told the Standard, some people, in a friendly way, tried to lower my expectations. They often tell you that unless you wear an old school tie or have the family contacts, you just won't get the chance to work in the city. But they were wrong. His career move worked well, although he had to move across the Atlantic to succeed. And by the age of 25, he had become vice president at Chase Manhattan Bank, later moving to Singapore for a period of Dutch Bank. He rose to become a managing director before leaving in the summer of 2009 to concentrate on a political career. A Conservative Party supporter from the early 1980s, he had attended his first conference towards the end of Thatcher's years. The Conservative friends from university, such as fellow Tory MP Robert Halfon. They got into a bit of trouble in the 1990 conference, heading out leaflets against the Prime Minister's decisions to join the exchange rate mechanism, opposing the policy. Despite being die-hard fans of the Miss Thatchers, according to Conservative Home Profile, Mr. Javid, Mr. Halfon, another future Tory, David Bubbers, and Tim Montgomery, founder of Conservative Home, got up at 7 a.m. so they could get front row seat for what would turn to be Miss Thatcher's final party conference speech. 2 decades on, and in 2010, he was elected for the First Minister and made swift progress. He began his ministerial career with roles in the Treasury, before becoming the first cabinet minister of Asian descent. When he was appointed Culture, Media and Sport Secretary in 2014, he did that for a year before moving to Business Secretary for a year and then moving on to be Communities and Local Government Secretary. Long thought as a Eurosceptic, it was a surprise to many men that when Mr. Javid came out for Remain during the UK's 2016 referendum on whether or not to stay in the European Union. That meant, of course, that like then Home Secretary Theresa May and his one-time mentor, the Chancellor George Osborne, he was on the losing side. It was an ill-fated, very short-lived bid to succeed. David Cameron is concerned to leave it after the referendum on a joint ticket with Stephen Crabb. He would have been Chancellor to Mr. Crabb's Prime Minister. He also ran in 2019 leadership election, but was eliminated for the 4th round before Mr. Johnson went on becoming our Prime Minister. Mr. Javid was appointed Home Secretary in April 2018, following resignation of Amber Rudd. The fallout from the Windrush scandal. At the time, Mr. Javid told the Sunday Telegraph, the scandal immediately impacted him. Mr. Javid, who was the first Home Secretary from an ethnic minority, told the newspaper, "When I heard about the Windrush issue, I thought that could be my mum, it could be my dad, it could be my uncle, it could be me." In 2019, he took the hardline stance towards Shamina Begum, who left London to join Islamic State group aged 15, revoked her British citizenship when she asked to return. The move boosted his popularity among some Tories, but provoked criticism from others, particularly after her newborn son died in Syrian refugee camp. I mean, that was a strong protocol, wasn't it? Very, very strong. You'd think that'd weaken one of the minister's knees, wouldn't you? She just lost her child to in Syria. Should we support the mother? That's usually the protocol. What England usually an English government would usually do, accept her visa back in. Feel sorry for her. But they stuck to the rules of Brexit. He left to join an ISIS country. As we know, ISIS is a war-torn country. She can come back and cause harm to normal citizens, quite frankly so. They're quite frankly right in protecting our democracy. In his cabinet roles, he had avoided major calamity. Although he faced questions as business secretary over Tata Steel and as community secretary over the government response to the Grenfell disaster. However, he had not been afraid to ruffle feathers with uncompromising messages to some in the business community and local government. Following his resignation as Chancellor, Mr. Javid returned to life as a backbench MP, but he also took up a job with US bank JP Morgan. We've got a shooting in Milton Keynes. It's police, but we're not going to write the police off because how hard they work day in, day out. We're not the type of people that are going to mock the police for what they do. None of us are, because they make our safety. It's paramount. It's their priority to protect us. They took someone's life, but we've got to find out the reason in a minute. So we're not going to knock the police for any shape or form for what they do for every citizen inside the UK. They don't just, tackle crime.
Opposition, then where are we all going? But these are dangerous times. We've got dangerous people, dangerous, greedy, self-interested people. And I heard in various, cabinet ministers saying, the public, or some of the public. And I thought, no, it's a lot of the public. But everything to do whether it's the yacht or anything else that Boris Johnson is getting away with. At this moment of time, and they're all in it together. They've all got their fingers in a pie that we are watching, and we have to, for the sake of our different generations and children, we have to get something done about this. And the public inquiry next year surely isn't going to cut it. They're just making fools of all of us.
Well, yeah, unfortunately.
I think, God bless Julian Moore for what he is doing, but standing
that's
alone.
Indeed, that's where it's not just about the inquiry. It's where people like Julian Moore at the Good Law Project, other remedies need to be available to us, and that could be legal, it could be political, it could be public transparency, but we need a combination of approaches to this, don't we, Sarah?
You do, and in fact, I Chris Evans, the DJ, I like him. I followed him for a long time. But I actually, before this broke last week, he mentioned he had Matt Hancock on his show, and he invited him to the car fest. And I thought, Chris Evans, I like you, but and this is before all of this broke. Matt Hancock is a liar, like all of his government, and that even the Queen saying a poor man. And I just thought, he's not a poor man. He's been very evident that he's a robot, he's a liar. They are like aliens. They are not like us. If Rishi Sunak thinks he's going to come in with tax and everything else, I'm feeling and believe me, I'm at a certain age now, but I'm feeling very, very rebellious. Wow. And I am not going to pay extra tax or there's too many involved here. There's children, there's different generations. We have to do something about this. This cannot continue. And we're just watching it, whether it's, Lord Muck, Lord Peter Krudas, all of those people that are still sitting up the Lords with. It's a completely offensive situation. And I remember Boris when he was mayor, and that's what he thinks of people. That's what he thinks of Joe Public. He bought the water cannons. Well,
all right, Sarah, thank you for calling. Really moving call there, and really solid points made. Let's go to Lee on the line from Seven Oaks, who's a new caller. Welcome, Lee.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's the first time caller, and thanks for taking my call. I was just listening, and I really feel that people are being really unforgiving in many respects. He clearly loves this lady, and he clearly is in a relationship with her. And yes, he's broken the rules and his position is untenable. And he said sorry and he's resigned. I really don't know what else people want him to do.
I'll tell you what we want him to do, Lee, because it's not about the affair. I wonder why you don't want to know what was in those private emails where he engaged in government business using his email account, private email account.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be investigated, clearly.
But it can't, because it's his private email account. Why would a Minister of State do that?
Yeah, but if he's broken the rules...
But we don't know until we see the emails. And we can't see the emails because FOI doesn't apply to private emails unless exemptions are made. And those exemptions are made by the government that you apply to them for.
Well, then that's it then, isn't it? There's clearly something dodgy going on there. And then the other thing is, how was that CCTV of him kissing that lady? Who's obtained that?
Indeed.
You know, these are the things. It's clearly dodgy, and there is some dodgy business going on. But I think in terms of there and him kissing that lady, I think people are being really unforgiving.
So Lee, I think we're on the same page that I don't care about the affair. I think none of my callers do, not so far that I've heard. But the questions you're now asking are the questions I asked at the top of the show, which is, what's in those emails? Why can't we see them? Why did the PM not just sack him in the first place? But more importantly, in those emails, I'd really like to know how he handled care homes, because if it is true, as is being alleged, that he sent people to care homes without being tested, then that's a life and death decision. And why are you using a private email address to make life and death decisions like that? And then, of course, there's the money involved, 37 billion for test and trace and all the other PPP negotiations and contracts. But those three areas are in his private emails. And I think you agree now, we need to know what's in those emails, don't we?
Yeah, we're making an assumption that he's done wrongdoing. But yeah, I mean...
it's more than an assumption, Lee, because Dominic Cummings, who you'd think has info, right, and he's clearly released some info, if you look to his Substack, he said it very clearly, in his words, not mine, Matt Hancock's decisions around the care homes have killed people.
Yeah, but clearly they wasn't just his decisions either. I'm playing a little bit of devil advocate here because I think we're just trying to sort of hang him out to dry.
Lee, they might not just be his decisions, because clearly the PM was his boss, but he's the health secretary. He's the health secretary, which means when it comes to the health policy, which is what's defined our lives over the last 2 years, there were two men that mattered, the PM and the health secretary. Even more so than the Chancellor, because Matt Hancock was the health secretary. So how you treat elderly in care homes and how many died because of your decisions, that buck stops with the health secretary and the Prime Minister. And we can't get those answers we need because one of them remains Prime Minister and therefore is relatively able to do whatever he wants. And the other one used his private email address.
Yeah, that is true. But clearly there are people advising them in relation to those decisions. So I don't think the buck stops with them, but those policies would have been borne out through advisors and scientific advice, surely.
Not if he ignored the advice and lied, which is the allegation Dominic Cummings made. Now, after he made that allegation, people may have treated it in a lukewarm manner because it was an allegation after everything that...
We're going to pause that there, guys. We're going to carry on with what's happening with the police incident. Maybe a miscommunication. They obviously used level 2 force for a reason. They shot the guy, shot him dead. They shot man dead. Which is, they used level 2 force. A child was brutally attacked, I'm guessing. There's finding an injured child. So they've gone in there, used level 2 force. Milton Keynes, police shot man dead after finding an injured child. A man has been shot dead by police who discovered the body of another man and a serious injured child at a property. So the policeman's rightly so, he's angered to see a child, and the disturbance of the policeman's, it's going to give a policeman mental rehabilitation himself because it's caused, you know, the thought of one child being killed and the other one being brutally attacked for whatever reason. The guy's gone in there, the policeman's gone in there and done what he's done. If he's going to get time in prison or his police uniform taken off him is another matter, I don't know. But he's done justice for the family. Justice for them children's lives. Thames Valley police officers were called to a serious disturbance in the Mead in 2 Mile Ash, Milton Keynes, on Saturday at 20 to 10 a.m. He found a man in his 30s who was later confirmed dead, and the child. A man in his 20s was also at property, and a taser was deployed before shots were fired, police said. Police said first aid was given and ambulance crews treated the man that they had shot, but he was later pronounced dead. The Independent Officer for Police Conduct, IOPC, said it had received a referral from Thames Valley Police and its investigation was at a very early stage and no further information can be provided at this time. Absolutely tragic. Police have not revealed any more details about the child who was taken to hospital, but neighbours said it was a baby who was about 1 year old, the next of kin of the dead man, who had been notified before said. Assistant Chief Constable Christian Bunt said, "What has happened can only be described as absolutely tragic and will no doubt have an impact on the community." A cordon put in place on Saturday has been extended in the 2 Mile Ash area while an investigation continue. Neighbour Tracy Sherman, 54, described the area as quiet and said nothing normally happens. "This is so sad, and I know everyone was shocked that such a tragic thing has happened on our doorstep," she said. "I didn't really know the couple who were living in there. I think they'd only moved in a few months ago, but I saw them walking their baby in a pram. They were only in their 20s. I think that a baby, maybe at 1 year old, is so tragic." Another neighbour, who did not wish to be named, said his wife heard a loud bang like a gunshot and a man screaming. Police are not seeking anyone else in relation to the deaths and said officers were likely to remain outside the property for several days. Anyone with any information has been asked to contact the force. In relation to the police having to do what they had to do to save that child's life, we can't criticise the police. I mean, you know what it's like, the critics in social media, "Oh, the police have acted unprofessional, they're acting, they're not irrelevant for their job." They're not being irrelevant for their job. Absolutely, they've been adequate in their job, being professional in their job to save that baby's life. Did they mean to kill him? Possibly not. They've got so many arteries in your body. Might have aimed for his shoulder, hit him in the heart. Might aim for his shoulder, hit him in the windpipe. Might have aimed for his shoulder, hit him in the head. But they're angered that he's just been taking his own one. It's almost a newborn baby, 1 year old, isn't it? Very, very, still very, very young, still very, very fresh. Still got a lot of life ahead of him. Does deserve to get hurt and beaten. These young families starting up young, they've got a lot of life ahead of them. It's crazy. But anyway, ladies and gents, it's Proclamation News and Gatherings. It's the prodigious, the prominent Professor Johnson, P&G. I hope you like the show. I hope you like coming through. I hope you like the different perspectives, different angles. I like to try and tackle different things, different natures of politics, criminology, UK road users guideline, and instance of what's going inside the UK. I'm overwhelmed that there's law support coming back and forth. Possibly the same person that always comes through on YouTube. I appreciate you coming in there, listening on YouTube. My cast boxes, I've got 10 in my cast box at the moment. I appreciate everyone that's come through today. Thank you all so much. I'll be back again as much as possible. Hopefully we can outline some more. I know any new news is good news. Listen to news is it's like therapeutic for the mind, isn't it? Seeing what's going on around the world. But anyway, I want to say take care, one love, have a wonderful Sunday, last Sunday of the month, so enjoy it, embrace it, the day of rest, have a good time, but have a chilled time. Take care, one love. Maybe chill and listen to your favourite chill out music or read a book, bit of colouring, but use it as a chill day. Have a nice chill day, guys. Take care, speak soon, and one love. Everyone.